put a tracker.
Sorry, we forgot to record. We just remembered we weren't recording.
A guy who you are dating, he already put a tracker in a car to know where she is, where she's at. You just call, but you said you were going to Ikeja. What are you doing in Surulere? And you'll be like, are you around? There are things that are dangerous to marry. A hot-tempered person. How can you marry someone who has no control of their reactions? They cannot control their temper. These are things that you see. A stingy person cannot love. Someone who does not, stingy means unwilling to give. The mark of love is the ability to give. For God so loved the world that he gave. You cannot love someone and the person needs what you have, and then you do not give, you hold it back. Do you understand? Stingy people cannot love you. They cohabit with you. They just live with you. Everything is okay as long as there is no, as long as you don't ask for anything. And you see these traits while you are dating. They never buy gifts, never even your birthday is like that. Anything you want to say, they don't have money. They don't have. And that would now impose on the other spouse to be spending school fees, 200, it's 40,000 I have, I don't have money. A stingy person can go hungry so that you don't ask them for food. He won't even dress well. Someone that is not feeding well, is that the person that will feed you? He is not eating well. Very basic people. These are things that you need to teach people. When you see in relationships, you need to run. So you hear people calling into the program saying, where have you been? If I had known all this, I wouldn't have married my husband. You are describing what is happening. I wouldn't have married my wife. The training, it's not a spiritual thing. It is not, marriages are not a spiritual affair, because Matthew will tell you that there are no marriages in heaven. It is an earthly thing. God is not even God. They tell you that God has chosen. Have you prayed about it? Did God tell you? But you find out that from Genesis to Revelations, God never told anybody, this is your wife. In fact, it says in Proverbs 18, he that finds a wife finds a good thing. But you tell people, there was a church we went to. I don't know if I told you this story. The pastor told all the ladies it was a conference. The singles, everybody stand up. Women, you get a paper and a biro, write down the names of men that are toasting you. So some had a very small sheet, some had a long sheet. So you fold it and you come and drop it on the altar. You have to fast for 3 days. No oil, no soup, no, the white fast, I think, And they all did it. They came on the 3rd day. Everybody was there. And guess what? As you are coming, the pastor will just hit you. Number 2 is your husband. This one will hit you. Number 4 is your husband. That's how they were just receiving based on the number of what they wrote. How can you do that? That is marriage by prophecy. You see, that is divination. At times we do what we don't know is called divination, all in the name of relationships. But you see, the person is right in front of you. And that is why the so-called unbelievers have marriages that are enduring. Because what? They look at character. Character is everything, and it's everything. Look at the person's character. The Bible says, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. You cannot be looking for someone's character from his religion. You look at his character. His character is what will tell you what he believes in, not his religion. You just say, well, he's a born-again Christian, he attends my church, and that is being, Christianity is not a character trait. Religion is not your character. Move the veil of religion and look at the character of the person. Is he hot-tempered? Is he stingy? Is he jealous? Is he proud?
Yes.
Does he lie? You need to check out the character. And then, you know what? People don't even date. Dating is getting to know the character of a person. You don't start a relationship with love. You start with friendship. You start by getting to know who is he hot-tempered? Is he this? Is he that? But no, yeah, you just say pray as you have received it, no matter what. Can you imagine at Ozone here at cinema, the guy slapped the girl downstairs because he had been in the car and he said the girl is always wasting time, and you slap her in the presence of everybody and then more. And you know, we talked to the girl and she says, well, I know he's hot-tempered, but we are praying about it. What are you praying about?
Olumide, I'm going to stop you there for a few minutes. I think at this stage, we're going to open up for comments and questions. And I want also, between yourself and Sonia, I just want you to think about this. There's so much pressure and we're not even just talking about Christians now, because we have some people who are not Christians here, although we are predominantly Christians. There's so much pressure on women to get married. The pressure, as we know, it's just unbelievable. So in light of all of this, I don't know what your comments are. Are we saying women should, I mean, it's easy for us to say, check. There don't seem to be, and I'm going to be very honest, there don't seem to be that very many great guys out there to select from. And my take is, this is why people are making the mistake and just trying to manage. I just want your comments on, both of your comments on that, and then we're going to open it up.
Can I respond to you, please, before the comments come in?
Okay, please do.
You are talking about...
And remember, Olumide, that I've been there. So I'm talking from somebody who has made all the mistakes that you spoke about. So I've been on both sides. So I'm just advocating now for the woman who is on this panel that does want to get married and is not having much luck.
Okay, briefly, I got married when I was 42 years old. Now, I'm an only son and the last born. When I got to 40 and I was not even in a strong relationship, you know, my mother gathered pastors from MFM. I woke up in the morning, they had surrounded my house, and I was hearing every spirit of marital delay, die by fire. This was 6 a.m. in the morning. So when you are talking about pressure, that was it. The third time they would come, I came with the cutlass and I drove everybody out of, you know, I have dogs now in the house, you understand? The only pressure, people need to know that marriage is not by force. That is the fallacies of marriage. The first fallacy of marriage is that you must get married. By the time I got to 42, I met my wife. I dated her for 5 months. I know what I was looking for. I saw it, I grabbed it. And you know, she's a divorcee, like you know, she's a divorcee with 3 kids. I have never been, so can you imagine all the people, my mother, everybody, my mother will now come to me and say, that means she's thanking God I did not listen to her. You have to understand that you are the one that will suffer the consequence of your choice. So if your choice is a matter of public opinion or personal decision, you suffer both consequences. So I just wanted to tell you that if you are looking for those that were pressured, I'm married at 42. Is it written on my face? No. Please let people first know that there is no pressure unless the pressure you put on yourself. Let me mute my mic, please.
Okay, Sonny, do you want to have a comment on that before we move on?
Thank you very much, Olumide, and I'm sure you are very happy in your marriage. You made the right choice. You know, sometimes delay, like we say in Christendom, is not denial. I also know of several ladies, one particularly close to me. She was actually my assistant pastor. She got married at the age of 49 for the first time. It was like the whole world had passed her by, and a few people on this platform will probably know her. She was never married. All her friends were getting married. Everybody was having kids. And you know, in this part of the world where we come from, we cannot pretend or try to run away from the fact that those things do exist. So I would not like to brush it off and say, don't worry, it doesn't matter, this and that. If it doesn't, then people will not be under that kind of pressure. Your parents, your aunties, your uncles, everybody, even your friends, after a while, you know, begin to say things to you. So that pressure does exist. And I dare say that those kind of talks and pressures have also maybe forced a few people or a lot of people to go into the wrong marriages. Some people also do need some help along the way, you know, to just help them, guide them, and prop them properly. There are some people by nature or character, like Olujimide said, that they are sometimes indecisive. They are not quick to decide. They cannot spot. This lady in question said there were two guys that if she had any counsel or if there was anybody that was counseling her, she would have married one of them. But she wasn't thinking about that. They gave her all the green light. They did everything. That wasn't what was on her mind. Why? Because there was nobody that was telling her, can't you see the red, can't you see the green light, the green signals? And so some people do need some help along the way. We can't run away from that. When people speak to you about these things, it's not out of malice, it's out of love and concern. And when they give you the reasons, you know why. Okay, so we all want those things, but because of that, sometimes it crosses the threshold when it becomes pressure, or sometimes it becomes self-inflicted pressure because there is an age that we are looking at. Some people set a limit for themselves. If I'm 30, if I'm 35, if I'm 40, before I get here, I give. So all those things come, but I just pray and wish that people will learn to be comfortable with who they are. Try to find happiness with who you are and what you are doing. I know a lot of women that don't go for naming ceremonies again because it's like anytime they appear, when will it happen, when will it not happen? I wouldn't say all the people there are asking out of malice or bad belly, like we say. They mean well for you. That is the truth. But sometimes the way they go about it may not exactly be right. So it puts pressure on you. Is that pressure that forces people now to make certain errors? And if you make such errors, it now turns back and say, these people pressurized me, they made me to make a mistake. But look, we will always live with this. How can we deal with it in the immediate? I say, speak to a counselor, maybe like Olumide or myself or any other person that can help you. There are many great pastors out there doing great work also. And there are many great counselors. And there are so many also that are not doing great work. Okay, so everything is about where you go, who you meet, and what happens in your life. So for me, it's something that will be here for a long time to come. And this pressure is not just in Nigeria. Please, let's not make a mistake about that. I've been all over the world and you have been also. It happens over there, everywhere else. So that's just human nature for me. Let me mute my mic.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And you know, Yoruba people will say, my Yoruba is not that good. And it's all you understand? And I'm happy that you said that. It's very easy for us to, Olumide, I hear you, what you said about don't put pressure on yourself. But I feel as a woman, there's almost pressure because you're most women want to have children and your biological clock is ticking as well. So that doesn't help with the pressure. So thank you for that. I also want to make an apology to Cyril because if Olumide hadn't shown me the pictures, I was actually a bit indecisive about, are we dealing with somebody who has been abused? So thank you for that. And yes, I just needed to clarify that. So at this stage, we're going to take comments and questions. This last, I know there've been a lot of comments. Mojupe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please go ahead.
Well, I'm supposed to coordinate the question. So if anybody
Are there any
is on the
comments?
floor and you have questions or comments, please, now is the time.
Can I make a comment, please?
Please go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon all. We started in the morning, now it's afternoon. It's all good. I think for me, this has been so educative.
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, bless. My name is Aki.
Please, can you introduce yourself? Okay. Hello, Aki.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Aki Ario. I live in Lagos. I'm a very, very good friend of Joyce. Listening to the talk so far, I would just like to ask, because I was asking and I was saying to my wife the same things, that look, I've always said this, who are we? And who are the children that we have together? Do you notice any commonality in them? And look at the 3 children and tell me. Because listen, the children don't just drop from heaven. We just overshoot that part and we just have a child. Who are you when you attract the child in the middle of your pregnancy? Who's your partner in that relationship? And what did they bring into that relationship that brings forth a child? The child is not just born and then you start teaching the child things of the world. No, the child comes with some qualities. And when you see the child, you say, in Yoruba, Ojo mi or Ojo grandma, abi Ojo, because you can see it. And sometimes you see the talent. So, I mean, like in today's world, we just jump into the education part. Who is this soul that's become our child? And what is this child bringing? We need to talk about that. We need to learn about that. Second part is that now the child has grown up. What's the psychological, emotional state of this person? Okay, like the 2 speakers, the professionals have spoken. Instead of us, this child has a psychological problem or deficiency, we start praying. Of course, we should pray. There's nothing we can't achieve with prayers. But God has also blessed us with professionals. Professionals have studied this issue. They've not studied everything. They just focus on these issues for years. So you must cede authority to the professional. You say, I go and see a psychiatrist. Say, lie, not me. Especially in England, they can section you. They put a comment on you to say, oh, you're not like a normal human being anymore. So a lot of parents are running away from seeing a psychiatrist, from going for mental health. And you are managing mental health with prayers. You and I know that's not going to work because God has blessed somebody else with the talent to identify mental health and know what to prescribe and do. Then you cannot support with the prayers. So some, like the speaker said, our religion and our beliefs tend to get in the way. Then we grow up, we men especially, at least the women get some sort of training when growing up. You must learn how to look after yourself. You cannot be dirty. You brush your teeth, know how to cook, know how to take care of the home. Who teaches any of us anything? And all the guys here, please, when did your dad sit you down to tell you about life? So you just stumble on and on. So for Mr. Omi Shebi or Omo Shebi, that got married at 42, very wise man. Because at least at 40, you're beginning to understand life that you didn't understand before. So you have a better chance of treating another human being properly. So you yourself, you have issues, you have not even dealt with yourself. Look at the growing up, most of the people that grew up locally in Nigeria, look at the things they've been through, traumatic. And then you now just go and say, somebody says, this is your partner, and you marry. You come with a lot of baggage. You're not ready for marriage. And like Joyce said, the women are thinking, 28, 30, yeah, 32, 35, 40, I need to get married. So any next best thing, they just choose. You already know you're in a long thing already. So you choose, and then it's not working out. But you knew already, but you were desperate just to have a child. So you and the list of the 7 things Mr. Mishebi listed, you marry somebody with all those traits. What kind of child are you going to bring into this earth? Then we talk about our living conditions now. Really, our living conditions now, if we're being honest, there's no time to bring any child to this world because you are both working. Some people finish work here in Lagos at 7 and get home at 10 or 11, and they're back out again at 4:30 to beat the traffic the next day. Where's time for romance? Where's time for holding up? Where's the park that you even go and walk and hold hands and talk? None. So we cut all that out like it doesn't matter. It does. And then you see a fine girl. We guys, we see what we like, our spec, whether it's the frontal or the back or whatever, light skin, dark skin. That's all we're concerned about. We don't bother to ask, are you going my way? okay, I'm in London and I want to go to Portugal. Oh, I'm in London and I want to go to Nigeria, opposite direction. So you know that, Omo, bless your journey, go your way, because you are not going my way. And we foster all these things and we get married. How do you even learn about sex, most guys? It's from watching blue movies when you are 16 and 17. You can't be beating some girl's ass. Is that how it's done in real life? No. But in blue movie, you are seeing somebody sleeping with 4 or 5 girls. I think that's life. That's not real life. It's enhanced. It's just to stimulate some sordid imaginations of certain people. So we need to talk, men especially. Let's talk. Then how many men? Just like 2 weeks ago, on a forum I belong to, some ladies were saying, why is it that men can't handle women earning more money than they do? I was like, that shouldn't be an issue. I was pleasantly amazed that the number of men that said, look, if my wife earns more than me, I'm finished. In 2022. So you can imagine. So if a wife that earns more must hide it. If you get promoted, you must hide it. Because your guy is like, this guy is a big girl. Because your horizon is not big enough to cope with this fabulous woman. And it now turns to jealousy. It turns to hatred. It's not her fault that she's brilliant. And anyway, women are well equipped, better equipped than we are in a lot of things. But our ego no go grieve. Because that's the way our fathers were. Our fathers were coming, their forefathers were slaves. Anyway,
we need to, sorry, if you don't mind, we need to sort of round up so that we can take more questions. But thank you very much for your contribution, Mr. Ario. I think that what you said was just reinforcing what the other person said. I'm sorry, I think his name was Charles. You know, just reinforcing what the other person said about the actual purpose of marriage. And you should be marrying for the right reasons and not just subjecting yourself to societal pressure. So just trying to get us back into the focus of the conversation of today. We're talking abuse. Usually when we have these sessions and usually when domestic abuse is discussed, it's usually men on women because that is, of course, more common. So I don't know if anybody has any more questions regarding the only example that we've taken today, the discussion by the survivor.
2 hands are up.
Okay, 2 hands are up. Yes, I see. Sorry, I'm just trying to see the hands that are up. Can the first person, I'm sorry.
Helen. Please
Helen, okay. So Helen, please go ahead and ask your question. Is it directed at anybody in particular?
Well, I can't start my video. I don't want the network to crack. So yeah, I don't want the network to crack. My question is actually maybe Olumide or Joyce can answer. I have a brother who is in a very abusive relationship. I remember that when they were boyfriend and girlfriend, they came to visit me, and the very first visit they fought. And when my brother said he was going to marry, I said, is it not that girl that you brought that you fought that same day? He said, she has changed, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, fast forward to 15 years after, sometimes when they're in the house and she starts, she will go and bring a knife, that she will stab him, she will do this, And I said to him that, look, it's not by force to be married. I don't want to tell you to separate from your wife because I'm not married. But are you not better off living alone than allowing this woman to stab you to death one day? Sometimes he'll be driving, she'll slap him and his glasses will fly off. He won't be able to see. So how do you encourage such a person who is in a relationship that clearly is not working to separate? I know they say God hates divorce, but are you not better off being alone than being in a bad marriage? Please, Olumide, I need your help here.
Thank you, Helen.
Madam Helen. I think Proverbs 19:21 says it is better to dwell in the wilderness than in a house with a nagging and contentious wife. Now, we know that nagging and contention is not the property of women alone. There are also men that nag, and contentious means ready to fight, ready to stir up troubles, you know. I have seen too much to sugarcoat. He should leave the marriage if he wants to live long, because anything can happen. It's not as if people wake up in the morning and say, oh, what do I want to do today? Today, let me just kill my wife, or let me kill. No, it doesn't happen that way.
Like what?
It might just be that push falls down the staircase. That stab, that. So I think that it is not a time to spiritualize. When you said, how do you encourage somebody? I said, no, this one you tell them the marriage is, my sister was in an abusive marriage a long time ago. The man would beat her up. She was a bank manager, beat her up because she served him 2 pieces of meat instead of 3. And he did not drop money for food. She was the one buying the food. He would, while she was asleep, she was a bank manager, he would go through her phones and start calling every number that he doesn't understand, read messages, and almost cost her her job, because you call customers and say, never you call this number again. Can you imagine your bank manager calling you at 11:30, 12 midnight? You know, someone that has like 200 million in the bank, they had to first of all go that, what has happened to my money? So a lot of people started withdrawing. One day he now took her with her braids, tied her head to the bedpost, and went to get a fire extinguisher. The local fire extinguisher, that is the one, the domestic one, slammed it on her body, and the thing broke and the chemicals spilled all over and started reacting. By the time they rushed her to the hospital, they could not pass the drip into her hands. They had to shave her head to pass because the chemical had reacted with. You see, it's not until I went there one day when the neighbor called me, you know, she would say, well, she fell down, he didn't beat her, he didn't do this. The neighbor called me when we got there, and I saw what I beat up the husband. It wasn't even, I beat him. That day was the day the marriage ended. I said, this marriage is over today. I packed her things and I left. At times, the threats, the intimidation, the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse has gotten people in a syndrome we call the Stockholm syndrome, where you now start sympathizing with your abuser and you remain. At times, you need a knock to the head. At times, you need forceful removal when you believe that the situation or the environment your family member is in is toxic and could cause his death. You go, you get the police, you write a statement, and for his own safety, he is removed and taken to a place like Warif for women. That's Women at Risk Foundation. And you know, there's a psychologist there. Or you bring a man, I don't know, well, I'm not a counselor. I tell, you know, they call me a counselor. I'm not a counselor because I don't follow the ethics of counseling. I just tell you the truth. That's my own. There has to be a wake-up call, and people should be blunt enough to tell and not try to see whether it will work. Maybe you need to separate for some time. The Bible says, go and dwell in the wilderness, not go and visit. The Bible says, go and dwell in the, that's pack your load. Go into a place without a postal address, no zip code. Go where you cannot be traced. Separate, because a living dog is better than a dead lion. So I think in that situation, whatever you can do, please do.
And I just want to intervene. This is my own personal view. I'm not a professional. I leave that to Sonny to talk about things like that. But from the little that I know about domestic violence, I really don't think you can force somebody who is not ready to leave. You can intervene. You can, you know, set up intervention. You can sit down. You can call. But if a victim does not want to leave that relationship, just like Olumide said, Stockholm syndrome, there's not much you can do. And that is why you see people returning to the abuser over and over again and making excuses for them. So Helen, the only thing you can really do is, yes, intervene, try and do your best to put, you know, make him realize, but until he's ready to go, I'm not sure that there's much you can do. And I'm talking from experience. I used to go back and forth as well. People used to tell me to leave, but I didn't leave until I was ready. Okay, so we'll take the last comment from Tommy. You have your hand up, please go ahead. And I think mental illness, which is what Aki spoke about, is key as well to this in therapy.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Tomi Oyeshola, and yeah, I'm part of DVALI. I was the first person who spoke with respect to domestic violence. So I was the first survivor, as you would say. So yeah, I've been listening in, and it's been quite interesting because I wanted to hear the guy's perspective. What we've had in the last few series has been female. So yes, I understand Mr. Olumide's statistics. Everything was quite on point, and it actually is not about today alone. It relates to some things that have happened even about a decade ago. Sorry about that, about a decade ago. So yes, and again, I don't think it's about the age, because yes, we may get married at 42, but I can give you an example of a friend of mine that is going through hell right now as we speak. She got married to the gentleman when he was 52. He will be about 57 now. He's almost 60. My friend will be about 46, 45, thereabout. And guess what? It was his first marriage, and really is not much. He's almost 60. What does he want? They have a son. He gives her hell, So we talked about all those things where you say, oh, some husband will be calling bosses or calling customers. That is exactly her story. Her husband will call her boss and say, oh, that your trip to South Africa, that your business trip with a business class ticket for my wife. Now, wow, her boss is a white guy. And the guy is wondering what's going on. So my point being, yes, age, maturity really, and the character of the individual, I think, is what matters. Some people get married at 30 and they have successful marriages. And we just need to continue to educate ourselves more. And when we see the red flags, for instance, I saw the red flags, but I still went into the marriage. So yeah, there's a lot to be said, but I'm not going to recap what Mr. Olumide or Mr. Sonny has said. God hates divorce, but he doesn't hate the divorcee. He would rather you are alive and testify, just like we are doing now, to the goodness of the Almighty. So and yeah, nagging and contentious things, like he said, adultery. The Bible says for adultery, you can leave. I left because of so many things, but adultery was one of it. So yes, character of the person matters, not just age, the individual. And when you see the signs, please don't go into that marriage. There's no adult that can change. But we can try and help the individual. We're all human beings. Maybe the person is just selfish and jealous. I don't know what traits the person may have, but we could help the person, but not you. So let's not go into something that would be detrimental to our lives. So I just thought to chip in one or two things. No questions, just comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tomi. There was a question that Joyce tried to ask. I think it's Cyril when he was speaking, but his connection wasn't very strong. So I'm going to repeat that question now, and I'd like Mr. Inebi to answer the question, please. A question that often comes up when we talk about abuse, domestic abuse, is if you've seen all the signs and you've seen all the red flags, why do you still go in? Of course, we ask this question of women who've seen all the red signs. Man is already shouting at you, you're not even married. Man is already monitoring your movement, you're not even married. You see all of this still going. So I guess the question is, are the reasons the same for men who have seen all these red flags? They've already seen that she's a contentious woman, but they still go ahead with the marriage. So I don't know, can you enlighten us? Are the reasons the same, or do men reason differently? Why do they still go ahead into a marriage when all the abuse are there?
So thank you very much. I align with all the comments that have been made, regarding the last couple of questions and comments. I still see one hand up, so, but, to answer your question directly, why do people still go ahead, even though they have seen all the red flags? It's just what happens to human beings. Sometimes you think, I've invested too much in this relationship to back up now. Even up till today, I talk to people that say, if I leave this relationship now, I'll need time to go and build up another relationship, because the person who is abusing or the person who is on the other end always promises to change. Things will always get better. People are always looking forward to a better future. Maybe when we get married, the dynamics will change. But as we know, and as we are finding out, it seldom changes. So I think one of the principal reasons is people thinking the other person will change. It will get better. I've invested too much. I cannot go back now. Where do I go to start from again? I've put in 2 years, I've put in 5 years. Do I throw that away? You know, even the person abusing you will say, do you want to throw away 5 years of relationship? Sometimes if you leave me before you find somebody else. So all those things are sometimes the reason why people stick and carry through. And maybe they have grown close to your family members. Your auntie likes her, your uncle likes her. And so you don't want to disappoint some people or the other. These and many other reasons are why some people go ahead, even though they have seen the red flag. And sometimes they hide it from the people that will tell you better. You know, you're going out with a guy, you know how he truly is, you know, but because you want to get married, you don't tell the people that you think will tell you the truth, what you're actually going through. So you hide it from people and you just go through hoping that things will change. And let me say this also, some people just want to answer that toga, MRS. Okay, I was once married. Let me even enter self. Let it be that. Do you understand? So some people just want to answer that Mrs. status. And, you know, by the time they see it, it's not what they think. So this and so many other reasons are why, in spite of red flags, people still go ahead. And at the end of the day, they regret those actions or moves.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We have somebody's hand up, but the name is not shown. It's just a number, 898545. You have your hand up. I don't know if you have a question. If you do, you can please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's me. I don't know why it's showing me as 898454, but it's Nick Agiwa. Hello, Joyce, and good afternoon to the panel. Thank you very much. You know, I think I've been coming to these sessions for quite some time now, and it's quite interesting to hear from the men. And for me, basically, it just shows that everyone is the same. You know, the way the men think, the way the women think when it comes to relationships seems, you know, about the same. But what I just want to say is to just say thank you to especially Olumide. And basically why I'm saying thank you is that one of these people who believe in data, and what the data is showing is really quite scary. I also believe that what needs to happen now is more conversations, more things out there for people to understand and see what is actually going on. I mean, I think now it's time to shy away from culture, from tradition, from, you know, your parents or aunties say you're not married, when are you getting married? And then you all want to go into it just because you find that a lot of people are also going into their marriages, not because they love this person, but, you know, to meet societal pressures, you know, oh, I'm not married, my friend is married, all that stuff. If you are not married, I mean, I have friends who are not married, and I'm so okay with them. They're happy, I'm happy, and that's what it should be. But you know, society has a way of putting a stigma quietly. She's not married, though. Why are you hanging out with that person? Why are you? I'm lucky I'm married to a man who doesn't ask me those kind of questions. He knows my friends, he knows the ones that are married or not married. He doesn't even think twice about it. And I think when we start having an open mind about what marriage is about, then things might probably get better. But please, I think we need to continue having these conversations. We have young children, I have daughters, and I know some of my friends who are already talking to their daughters about marriage. Some of us are trying not to do that. We don't want to pressure them, but you find yourself saying, who's your boyfriend? You know, they're in their 20s and those kind of things. And I'm trying to stop myself from doing that, because that's where that pressure starts from. Once you say, oh, my mom's already asking, or my aunties are already asking, and you know, your mindset is thinking towards marriage. So I think we also need to try and get away from that, maybe as parents, as, you know, older people, even spiritual leaders, and people need to realize spiritual leaders are human beings. they will say what they think or what they feel they know. It doesn't mean they know anything and everything. So also that pressure on them to also want to counsel people, I find that also quite strange. So which is why for me, let the data show what is happening. Let us understand what is happening. Let the professionals deal with it, as Aki said. If there's a problem, you have a counselor, let the counselor deal with it. But not that, you know, people will just say, oh, I've seen a vision, I think this guy will suit you. And then we need to start teaching our kids to also be able to stand up. So confidence, no is no. I'm not going with this man just because my pastor said, or my imam said, or my traditional spiritual leaders, or my father or my mother even said. We need to also be doing that more. But thank you for a great session, as always, DVALI.
Thank you, Nika. Thank you so much, everyone. It's come up to 1. We always try and finish on time. And time is never our friend on this panel. Thank you for everyone who has been a guest and on the show. Thank you, Olumide. Thank you, Sonny. Thank you, Cyril, for all the informative information that we've gotten today. It's been truly amazing. And I want to stop on a positive note. There are good men out there. There are good men out there. It is easy for us to come here and talk about all this and everybody leaving thinking men. There are good men out there. We know that. And on that note, after thanking everybody, thank you to everyone who continues to come on this panel every time we have this series. Thank you so much. I want to end with Cyril. I want him to take us out on what line would you like to leave us, or what information would you like to leave somebody who is on this panel that is facing abuse? What advice would you like to give them? And we'll end on that. Cyril, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
2 minutes.
My story related on the section. Why I said that story was because it led to my injury. So it's not as if I didn't go to other instances. But why is that in my own case, it's about finding a partner who is flawless. It's finding someone who can match our own level of commitment. When ladies see good men, they should just match to their level of commitment. Because I felt my wife was not committed. Maybe she wasn't even ready to marry. So, like someone asked, why did you go into the relationship when you saw the signs that there was going to be abusive? Is because she promised that she was not going to do it again. Perhaps she pretended. So people can pretend into marriage. So she pretended, and we should just be very sure. And because, as the church also said, the counselor in the church said, go ahead, she will change. Because I had reservation during the counseling. She said she would change, that I should go ahead. So I think women should have the same level of men that are good, that are ready for marriage. I think mine was not ready for marriage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cyril. Thank you to everyone who's here today. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just add something to what Cyril said. And I think one of the counselors is here. There was a couple that came and they were doing counseling, and having taken them for some time, the counselors actually recommend that the marriage should not go on. That's counselor in our church. They recommended that the marriage should not go on. They recommended to me because I know one of the partners, and I said, what was the problem? They said, based on X, Y, Z that we have found out, we don't think this marriage should go on. So, you know, these things, depending on where you go and depending on who you speak to, that's just the note I want to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Olumide, do you have a word?
Yes, if I could say thank you for listening. Now, it is important that people know that there is a portion of the law that protects you from domestic violence and abuse. The problem is that people don't know the law. For example, Section 360 of the Nigerian Criminal Code Act says any person who unlawfully and indecently assaults a woman or girl, that is whether you are married or single, is guilty of a misdemeanor and liable to imprisonment for 2 years. Now, Section 353 of the Nigerian Criminal Code Act still says any person who unlawfully and indecently assaults a man is guilty of a felony and liable to imprisonment for 3 years. Please don't ask me why one is 2, one is 3. It was the House of Reps. Now, there is an act called Violence Against Persons Prohibitions Act of 2015, which tells you now this applies to abuse. Section 5, subsection 1, a person who willfully or knowingly places a person in fear of physical injury commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 2 years or a fine not exceeding 200,000. Now, section 10, subsection 1 says a person who batters his or her spouse commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 3 years. The issue here is that the law already provides protection, but people don't know about this protection, or they are oblivious to it, or our culture, tradition, and religion does not want us to approach from the law. They want you to just see if you can manage domestic violence and abuse. Imagine in the past, between May 2019 to August 2021, the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team recorded 10,007 cases. Now there are 365 days in a year. When you divide it by 10,007, that is 27 cases in 1 day. We have been here for 5 hours. So right now, over 18 abuses have gone on and probably 2 fatalities already in 5 hours that we have been here, or how many hours? So the issue is that let us protect ourselves. We have the law that protects a battered spouse. It protects a spouse from abuse. Verbally, emotionally, you are protected. So please, if all else fails, please go to the law. You are protected. That is what I would tell anybody that is going through domestic violence and abuse. You are protected by law. Thank you very much. I would mute my mic now.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being. Yes, goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, Joyce. Thank you, all the panelists.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. This is very insightful.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Well done.
Thank you.
Olumide, we will link up.
Well done, Joyce. Thank you.
Talk again.
Thank you, man. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.